there was a Captain Crunch whistle that came in
Captain Crunch.
inside the box of Captain Crunch. They used to have
Oh yeah,
prizes,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and there was
Yeah.
a like a train whistle type thing that you would get. And I think it was the 80s where this guy figured out that the train whistle that came in a box of Captain Crunch was the same tone as what you could send through the line on a phone to give you like free access to like long distance. Back when there was long distance calling and it cost money, he could like
Holy shit.
blow that into a payphone and then be able to call India or something, you know?
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was the same tone the phone companies used. So like that was like he's like hacker original kind of.
That is so cool.
Hmm.
God, I remember the days of long distance calls and landlines and not being able to call my friends who were in other states. And yeah, so it's amazing. I wonder how long that worked for before they shut that down.
Yeah, it was for a while though. Long distance like was a thing for, and even now, like if you're calling, you mean how long did
Yeah,
the
the
whistle? Of
whistle
course, yeah,
before
that
they
should have
shut
made
that
sense.
down.
I don't know. I don't remember. Like, I know that I think he must have got caught with it at some point or another, where they changed the whole protocol where it wasn't based on tones anymore. I think like,
Mhm.
but the whole phone thing used to be based on tones. Like that was
Mhm.
even when you pressed your punch key ones, it was like beep boop beep boop. We still have
Yeah,
that pretend sound. I don't think they work that way anymore, but we keep the sound.
right,
It's
right.
funny how that carried over. But okay, well, you know what? It's all working. We're all ready to rock, and we're already talking. I already recorded all of this anyway, so so we're in shape. But I do. Let me start off this way because this is about you and not about the 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 Captain Crunch whistle I wanted to talk about. But here's where we're at. Here's where we're at. So it's Mother of Carp.
Mhm.
I have a hard time calling you anything but Mother of Carp, to be honest. So does this make sense, or should I be calling you something else?
You can call me Mother of Carp. I'm trying to see how long I can go before people find out my real name and start using it in chat. So we'll just go with Mother of
No,
Carp
let's go with
until
Mother of
then.
Carp because I don't do that. Like if that's what you say your name is, I'm going with that. I don't want
Yeah.
people to tell. I don't like people asking me my whole real name and my where I live and what I'm doing. I'm paranoid.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're Mother of
Same
Carp.
here. Same here.
Yeah, and I guess you
It'll,
have
it'll
every right to be.
like it'll happen someday. And I've been doxxed before,
Oh
and
yeah,
it's fine. Oh,
I'm thinking
I
of
don't know if we're gonna
using.
get into it, but yeah, I've been doxxed before.
We
Like
can.
before I was ever on Twitch. So
Oh wow.
it is what it is. But
Okay.
it'll happen someday.
I think
I want to see how long I can go.
I'm thinking of looking into Delete Me as a service. There's a service called Delete Me, and that they take you out of like a bunch of different stuff. Like it's basically their job to go sweep you from the web as much as possible.
I here's my paranoia of that. So, like, I do my own regular searches and I'll call up those companies and have them take down my information, or I'll just leave it up if it's incorrect.
Hmm.
Like, if it's a very old address, and I'll be like, all right, cool. So somebody's gonna go,
To the
find
wrong
that
place.
address and it's not correct. Um, but I'll do that myself. I wonder if some of those companies are also the people that run those web searches, and it's kind of like a mafia situation. Like, yeah, well, we'll
This
take
is
we'll take your information down for a fee.
this is definitely the issue, right? Like, isn't this the issue where
Mm.
you can never know? It's like how many reversals are there going to be?
Yeah,
How many reversals are
exactly.
there going to be? Is this really happening? Are they actually doing the job, or are they now like, well, we erase it from everywhere else, and then we have the information only, and we sell it back to whoever we want to sell it to? I guess.
Uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh,
I know there
uh-huh.
was a dude named Ramit Sethi, who's more or less like a personal finance person, and he says that a lot of times when he signs up to something, he puts his last name as the name and also the name of the company that he's signing up with, so that
Oh.
if he gets an email that's like, "Oh, Ramit Sethi, um, Global Tech Inc." And it's
Yeah,
like, "Oh,
yeah,
so
then
Global
you know.
Tech Inc. sold you my thing," and that was like his little trick, I guess. But I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna do that.
That's really funny, and I like that.
It's a good slick move. It's a good slick move. But you know what? I realize I'm talking about tech, and I do want to talk to you about technology. I guess I don't. I don't need to derail the conversation, but I could start us out where I wanted to start us out, and you can tell me if you want to keep it up or if you want to just go back to talking about technology. And
Okay.
it's totally up to you. But here's the situation. So this is where I wanted to begin. There was a quote. You're an artist. You do lots of different types of art, as well as tech, and you kind of mix the two together a lot of the time as well. So I find that interesting. I found a quote that I felt gives a feeling of what I'm thinking about with art. It's by Thomas Merton. And he says, art enables us to find ourselves and lose ourselves at the same time. So your new show on Twitch is called Art Has Peaked, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
why that title? Do you feel art is stagnated, and why do you feel that way if that's the case?
Well, it's really silly. I was bumbling around for a name for a while. I originally thought maybe I'll call it like the Midnight Art Talk or something of that nature, because I originally wanted the show to be at an inconvenient time for everybody where we talk about art and it's just fever dream hour garbage that you hear while you're falling asleep. But Art Has Peaked actually came from a meme. I wish it were more profound than that, but it came from a meme that I saw of this oil painting of a possum, and somebody captioned it, "Everybody can stop now. Art has peaked." And I don't know why, but that stuck with me. And I mean, this is going to be for the visual viewers, but the possum was posing like this, like it was so offended, and it was a magnificent painting, and it was okay. Art had, like, there are other better art pieces, I'm gonna be honest, but I loved the caption, "Art has peaked," and then I just started throwing that everywhere. I got obsessed with saying that. So I'm sorry, I wish it were more profound, but I love that quote that you used, because I do think that in being on Twitch, I've really discovered myself in a lot of ways and cut off a lot of things that I did not intend to cut off, or think I've shed my skin. I've shed things that I didn't know that I could shed, things I didn't know I needed to shed, and I've let things grow out of myself that I didn't know could grow.
Tell me a little more about what was shed. Like what's an example of something that you had to let go of?
Well, first thing off the top of my head is my holding back what I said. I've had a habit of holding my tongue and being extremely anxious or mindful about what I say. And now that filter is just gone. Um, I'm much more bold than I was before. I mean, since becoming Satan, I've gosh, I've been able to confront situations that I would normally just be like paralyzed to do. Just like, oh God, I have to talk to my boss about this particular thing, about an order, about this order I have to do. And now I'm just like, you just Satan up your spine and you just go in there.
Wow. So that's the thing too. If people don't know, because this is a different thing, on Twitch, sometimes you come out as the persona of Satan, like a Satan character.
Yeah.
You have the sound, you have the voice. I've been in the stream a few times, and it's a fun time. You answer. You seem to always be able to have a kind of an answer as Satan. Does that give you the opportunity to speak more freely? I mean, it sounds like that's the case, and then that's also carrying over into real life situations too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I found that not everybody on Twitch who does characters, that they carry their character outside of their Twitch sphere, outside of their studio. But I carry Satan wherever I go. Satan is always with me.
That's one way to put it. That's one way to put it. No, but it's a good character. And confidence tends to be a big thing. I think within a lot of the artist community too. We're like, I don't know. Sometimes there's insecurity about, is the things that I'm doing okay? Because you're putting stuff out for people to see a lot of the time, right? So is
Yeah.
this okay? Are people gonna like it? Is this gonna be good? All that kind of stuff. And funnily enough, getting out of that does seem to make people like it better a lot of the time too. So
And
I'm
the
with
thing
you.
is, like, Satan doesn't care about if it's good or not. I care. I freak out all the time, but I like when I get into the Satan mindset, it's like, oh, Satan doesn't care. Satan does not give a fuck, and Satan is really just laughing at me because of this small, trivial human thing that I'm doing. So
Wow.
I just
So
carry that.
when did that get started? Like when did you start deciding that that was going to be the character you were going to do?
So it started shortly. Okay, the transition of Satan began when I did a lecture about effect pedals on my art stream, right? Because I've worked in the music industry for 8 years, and I've amassed like tons and tons of pedals, and people were really really interested about learning how to do effects and how to make them play together and how they all worked and different terminology for things. So I did a whole lecture about how to use pedals together, and I hooked up a microphone, and I was like, all right, this is what happens when you add a little bit of fuzz. This is what happens when you add some distortion. This is what happens when you add a little bit of delay, and this is the difference between delay and reverb, and here's a pitch shift. And at the very end, I threw a few effects together that made this really, really dark, deep, demonic voice, and people were throwing in like copy pasta into the chat, and they were throwing in things like your car's extended warranty is, and so I was reading out that, and I was like, this is really, really fun. So I put in my very first um channel point. Oh, what do they call it? When you get all your channel points together, people basically threw in as many channel points as they could to get me to do an entire stream as a demon character. And I was like, well, I need it to be outlandish, I need it to be over the top, and I need it to be something that presents itself as believable, but not too believable, but not too fantastical. I had to get it just right. And I was like, it's easy. I could just be Satan, because nobody like hmm, I really hate to say this, but I'm going to say this, and it's just going to be out in the air. If I had chosen any just regular demon character, I think I would have presented myself as some kid from Hot Topic. Like,
Okay,
oh,
that's
look
fun.
at me, I'm a demon on the internet. No, I got to be Satan. I have to be over the top to nail this, right? So,
Wow. So you feel like
so
it would have been like a lower level situation if you just said, "Oh, it's a demon," and you'd kind of just be like, I'm a demon" or
exactly.
whatever.
But if it's Satan, like that is just so over the top that it's a very overt character. It's a very overt character trope. I'm like, I could do that. I could do absolutely that. And there's so many representations of Satan on the internet and in media and on TV and in movies. I can make this happen. So I did one stream as Satan. And then I was like, I'm never going to let this go. This was so much fun. I need to do this all the time.
It's a really good time. I suggest that people go and see it. I wanted to say this too. You mentioned music industry, and you worked in the music industry for 8 years.
Mhm.
And is making guitar pedals generally. Um,
Yeah,
but like
just guitar pedals.
just guitar pedals. No, well,
Mhm.
that's
Well, also synthesizers, but like the company that I worked for made both synthesizers and guitar pedals.
and I know you were telling me that that's an industry that struggled a little bit during COVID times. It was difficult because I guess maybe supply chain stuff for electronics was a bit of an issue.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
But
and oh, sorry.
oh no, 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 it's fine. No, but it wasn't just the manufacturing issues. So a lot of companies had trouble getting certain integrated circuits, right? Certain ICs. And so we had this thing called lead times where we would order a part and they would expect it to ship out maybe, I don't know, a year from when we ordered it, because they were so backed up, because auto manufacturers needed those chips too, and medical equipment manufacturers and other industries. It wasn't just us. And we're kind of on the lower tier of things. We're making toys. We're making fun gear. So we didn't, and the quantity that we needed to order, it's not like we needed to order 1,000 of them. We needed to order like 100 of them. We
Mm.
didn't need to order 10,000 of this thing. We needed to order like 50. So it was really hard to get those parts.
It kind of puts you at
And
the
when we
bottom of the priority list in a few different
Mhm.
ways, huh?
And then on top of that, people were not able to pay for their orders because we were heading into a recession,
Mm.
and so nobody was able to buy toys.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just one business. The entire industry suffered.
Took a
The
hit.
entire industry, and it didn't just expand into the music manufacturing industry. Musicians and everybody in the music industry suffered so hard because of this.
Wow. Well, I'm sorry that that happened that way. I wish it's never good to see business take a hit. Any businesses really that are especially when you're trying to just do some. It's one thing. It's bad when it's definitely medical equipment and all those things as well. Of course, I'm saying, but it does sort of suck when it's something that's meant to be fun and brings joy to people and stuff, and it's that kind of an industry, and then you're taking a hit and having to struggle. It's not really that fun. So, I'm sorry that happened.
It is what it is. And, in a weird way, it's kind of comforting that all of us suffered together.
It does
Like,
help.
it wasn't just, but it's not just bad business practices. It's not anything that we did. It's just, the times.
Yeah,
It's just how it worked out.
the
And
world
it
worked
feels
that
kind
way.
of, yeah, it feels kind of nice to hold hands with all your competitors and be like, yeah, this really sucked.
Yeah, it's true because you're all trying to do the same thing in the end, and
Hmm.
yeah, no, it made me think about I don't remember who it was. It was a Navy SEAL talking about um talking about his time at Buds, which is the training. It's sort of the selection process. It's the part where they kind of beat the crap out of you for a few weeks to make sure that you don't want to give up, essentially,
Hmm.
and they
Hmm.
try to make you give up. Basically, like that's the story. And he said he got through it because he took his mind out of himself and looked as like, well, I'm hurting, but Dave over here looks like he's hurting even worse. So probably if I feel this bad, Dave probably feels this bad. And it kind of took his mind off of his own pain for a while. So the fact that we're all, if you can get to the point where you're suffering together, it's kind of better. I think it was sort of the lesson there.
I try and do that as much as I possibly can with everybody and everything. And it's I feel like people forget the old thing that we're taught in schools just take a step, to walk a mile in somebody else's shoes. Just take yourself out of the situation and put yourself in somebody else's shoes and just live their life for like 5 minutes in your head. And that makes all the difference.
It's true. You never really know what's the paradigm that these people are kind of living through, and you can kind of I think I'm saying kind of too much. I'm gonna stop saying kind of. you
No,
you
it's
can
okay.
try and see things from somebody else's perspective. I make that effort a lot more often
Mhm.
these days, but I think that might come with getting older too. When you're younger, it's easier to see things in black and white probably. But how about this? You told me that there might be some stories that you have that could curl my hair about the
Mhm.
music industry.
Yeah.
So I say let's get a perm going here and see if we can curl this mohawk. What kind of, nothing that's gonna that's gonna hurt you in any way, obviously. But yeah, what's one of your crazy stories from the music world?
Do you want a fun story first, or do you want a really emotional story first? I'll do all of the stories, and I'll tell all about it, but
Okay. Do I want one? Which is better? I think once emotional. Is it emotional in a downer kind of way?
yeah.
Okay, let's do the downer first, and then we'll do the
Okay.
fun story to pick things up again. How's that sound?
The downer is my favorite pedal. That's what I use for Satan's voice. But yeah, no, let's absolutely do that. No, I'm not joking. I'm not joking. That's what the pedal is called. It's
No,
a
it's
downer
it,
pedal. But
it.
all right, let me tell you about my favorite funeral that I've ever attended.
Okay, yeah, I'm in.
All right. So when I was working at Cattle and Bread, and I can kind of talk about this now because it was so long ago. I'm like way out of the statute of limitations and all of that. It's public information now. It's fine. So when I worked at Cattle and Bread, I had started working there in I think 2015-ish, and I got that job. I loved that job, and I loved everybody I worked with. Everybody was just so fun to work with. We're the kinds of people that would draw dicks on the walls just for funsies, and there is an Instagram account that I will not share with the rest of the world, but I will share with you later.
Oh wow.
That's a collection of all of the dick drawings that we did on the whiteboard.
Well, I'm honored.
Um, yeah, just a
Thank
great
you.
time, wonderful people. It was a wonderful environment to work with, and we kicked ass every day. We were such a well-oiled team. Everybody knew what needed to be done. Everybody knew every step of production, and if somebody was falling on one end, we picked up the slack, and we were just a perfect team. We were crunching those numbers, pushing things out the door, and then March came around. And I come into work one morning, and these, the sales guy is standing outside, and he's got tears in his eyes, and he's like choked up, and he's like, "Hey, before you go in there, I just want to let you know that last night Nick was driving out to the coast, and he got into a car accident, and my stomach drops, right?" And I'm like waiting for him, like thinking to myself, "Oh, but he's okay, right?" And the next thing he says is, "And a tree fell on his car and killed him instantly." Uh-huh.
It's so
Not the thing
rough.
that you want to hear when you're just ready to go in and bust ass, and you're ready to see all your work friends, and you're ready to just kick ass every day, and you go in and you're told that, the guy who owns the company is dead
He
unexpectedly,
he
and
was
he
the
was
owner of
30.
the company.
God, I think he was 36 too. He was he was
It's
young. He
rough.
was a young dude. He had no will, he had no children, he had no wife. He didn't plan for this kind of thing. Nobody does. Nobody does. So, that news hit me like a fucking freight train. And I go and I sit down at the table, and everybody else is there, and people are crying, right? And people are passing around tissues. And once everybody actually gets in the door, and gosh, there were a couple of people who came in after me, and they're like, "Oh my God, it's true." Like, God, this wonderful gal who did the QC work, the minute she walked in the door, she sees us all sitting at the table, and the first thing she says is, "Oh my God, it's true." And then we all just hug and we cry, and it was beautiful. It was so fucking beautiful. Um, so we cry, we hug, and we're like, we don't know what's going to happen now, because he never had a plan for this. His business partner was there, but his business partner wasn't technically the owner of the company. Um, it was a really, really hard time. So what ended up happening was that the company went to the hands of his mom. Now, his mom was lived in Omaha,
Okay.
and she lived all the way across the country. And I won't disparage what I don't know, but what I do know is that Nick had moved out to Oregon in part to kind of be away from his family.
Oh.
And I know that he had flown back to Omaha like on Thanksgiving or something to try and make amends with his mom and try and get a better relationship going, right? I don't know all the details. Nick and I, we were getting to know each other at this point. Before he died, we had just been on the same page about things. He asked me to be the 3D printer wizard, the only person who knew how to run the 3D printer in the shop. And we had this beautiful moment one morning where I was it was 8 in the morning. No, it was 9 in the morning. I'd just gotten in. I'm sitting at the computer, and he gets the high watt amp up, and he turns to me and he says, "Open the door. I wish to annoy them." So I do. I open the door, and he cranks the amp up as loud as he can, and just with like as much fuzz as possible. And the guy who runs the solder pot comes up, and he slams the door shut, and he walks away. And then Nick and I, we just look at each other, and we just nod, and then we get
Yes.
back to work. That's what it was. Like, we were just getting to know each other for realsies. We'd worked together for a while, but that was when we were really starting to like get an understanding. And then he's just gone.
Ah,
But because of that, I didn't know a lot about his mom. I didn't know much about their relationship. I've only heard a lot of things.
okay.
But obviously, his mom did come to town after he passed. And it really strikes a particular nerve with me to see things like this. I've been in situations before where, you know, somebody doesn't have a will, and now everybody's fighting over who gets the property, who gets the ownership of things, and suddenly people come out of the woodwork, and they act like they've been there for forever, and they just haven't. I've been there a million times over, and I could not believe that this was happening to me at my job. This
Ah.
is like, anyway, my favorite funeral in the whole wide world. It was so beautiful. I've never seen a more emotional, more true, more like this is what a funeral should be. Um, so a musician's funeral, if you ever get the chance, I recommend it. Um, Nick, he had a lot of friends in the music industry, a lot of friends, and we had a bunch of people. I think we had about 200 people at this funeral, right? It was pretty good
Wow.
size. We rented out a big hall and we set up a live jam station and a bunch of instruments so that people could just express what they're feeling through music. And the music that came out of that, it was incredible. We had somebody like ripping it on the violins and somebody else on the drums just pounding away, and like there were hours of music just, we had some people getting up on the mic, and then people eventually told stories about Nick. And of course, there is the projector and people like telling old stories and stuff. But the most beautiful part was hearing the eulogy through the music that nobody had planned. And I strongly recommend that if you ever get the chance, go to a musician's funeral. Go.
No, that's beautiful. That I do think that kind of thing is beautiful. And although the fact that he passed away sucks, the fact that you guys were such a well-oiled team, which is hard to have
Mhm.
actually a lot of times, putting people together and having you all work synergistically and being like, oh yeah. And then he had this culture of fun too, because hey, we make guitar pedals. This is about, we make musical instruments here, so we're meant to be rockers a little bit too. That's
Mhm.
awesome. Sucks that he passed away, but when well, I guess we generally are all, as far as we know, we're all going to meet our end at some point or another. And
Mhm.
if our send off can be something special, I think there's a special place for that in my heart anyway. I
Mhm.
think I understand what you're saying. Um, but yeah, and yeah, this is music that essentially comes right from the heart of people who, okay, well, we love this guy. This is what we do, is make this art, and now this new thing is coming out of us because of this bad thing that happened. It's a fun thing about artists and musicians and stuff, where basically any emotional fuel, whether it's happiness or sadness or romance or sexuality, you can use it to make something beautiful. So that sounds really nice. Thank you for
Mhm.
sharing the story with me too. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
no problem. And I
And
mean, there's a lot more, and I know people have looked this up on the internet, and it was a big controversy. And I can say that I was there. There's still some stuff that I feel iffy about talking about
oh,
on
please.
the radio, but like the company fell apart, and there was a big legal battle between the former business partners and Nick's mom. She alleged that we stole information from the company and that we tried to like take that information and start a new company. There were a lot of questionable legal actions on her part, and eventually the lawsuit was dropped after 4 years of us just like nervously biting, like what's going to happen next, what's going to happen.
That's rough. That's
Yeah.
rough. That's why I suggest like people make their a will anyway, even when you're like younger,
Hmm.
because you don't know what kind of things are going to happen exactly. I know we never think about it, but I actually have one. I'm not going to say who's in it because I'm paranoid about you guys. I know I'm not drinking any poison cocktails or anything from you, but but no, I do have that. I mean, it'd be stupid to kill me because I don't really have that much. you, you you get like a camera and a microphone basically. um but yeah, I suggest that. I mean, how do you what you said reminded me of a story. I mean, should I ramble and tell a story for two
Yeah, go
seconds? Do you
ahead.
mind? Do you mind? It's a
Go
simple story. It was just my wife's grandmother, essentially. The story of her. She was 96 years old when she passed, right? And we went to visit her and in the hospital at the basically at the point where they're like, okay, look, she's going to be around for the next few hours and then not. That's the deal. So we went to the hospital, and I thought this was kind of beautiful. Like you mentioned how the funeral was great and beautiful. And I understand that because again, death makes it an iffy topic, an iffy subject, a hard one to deal with. But I think that generally, if you can look at it like, okay, it's a thing that's going to happen somewhere along the way. Here's how it went down. We all got there. She had a huge family. She had 10 kids or something like this, like old school, let's have a million kids. So she had all these kids. A bunch of her kids are there. Her grandkids are there, and great grandkids are there. When basically her heart is stopping, her sons sing her favorite song in her ear. And I was kind of like, this is like, I don't know, can you have a better situation? And you're 96, like you've done it. You've done it. And I thought, like, this is really great. Like, if I ended up in this situation, would it be that bad? And then I was also like, and what am I even doing here? How did I end up in this room right now? That's the other thing I found. It's like, you never know what's going to happen. Like, I'm sure Nick didn't expect a tree to fall on his car at all. That's not what he expected. And then all these musicians to be playing at his funeral. Maybe he expected that, maybe not. But I don't know. That I like the chaos of that, I guess, to say that it's a chaotic beauty. So yeah, that's my story of beautiful funerals, I guess. But we told me you had a fun one too. So we might as well say the fun one also. What do you think? What's your fun story?
Oh man. So this was partially during the, I don't know if we're going to be a company, I don't know if we're still working at our job, but we got tickets to go see Roger Waters. I was like in the middle of a D&D campaign when somebody texted me and said, hey, we have a ticket to go see Roger Waters. Do you want to go see him? And I was like, I am a big Pink Floyd fan. Yes, absolutely. Please. And they're like, okay, but you have to leave right now. And I'm like, I'm leaving the middle of the D&D session to go do this thing. So we ended up getting not only backstage passes, just for free. We got backstage passes for free. We also got like Howard ended up getting like floor seats, like way up on the front of the stage, but we got like the first level balcony stage that's like just above the pit. So like we got really, really good seats. And this was in 2018. So this was like the height of the Trump era. And when Three Pigs came on, there was like the big flying pig that flew around the stadium right over our heads. And of course, all of us, let's see, one guy was tripping on shrooms, and like the rest of us, we were stoned out of our minds. So being able to say that I got stoned backstage at a Roger Waters concert, not that he ever came out to meet us, we only met like his texts and stuff, which is cool. Like, of course he's not going to come out, of course not. But like to say that I got stoned backstage at a Floyd concert during the height of political tension, it was like, it was so good. That is like a life goal of mine. I'm happy. Like, I could get hit by a tree tomorrow and say that I've fulfilled my life.
Well, I hope you don't get hit by a tree. That's the first thing.
Thank you.
But yeah, no, that's a legit situation because, yeah, Pink Floyd is essentially the quintessential psychedelic trip. I don't want to say catalyst, I guess, for so many people. Anybody who's ever done anything, not gonna say what. We're not gonna get ourselves in trouble here. We don't. Maybe we did something. Maybe we didn't do something. But anybody who's did something has probably heard Dark Side of the Moon playing, has probably heard The Wall playing, has probably heard Wish You Were Here playing, has probably put Dark Side of the Moon on top of Wizard of Oz to see if it matches. This sort of stuff is memorable. So if you're actually at the show, Roger Waters was the bass player and writing a lot of the songs for Pink Floyd. If you could actually be there and be in that sort of mind state, it's pretty awesome.
It made it all the more special that the whole show and all the graphics and everything was rewritten to be about the Trump administration and that era of politics, which was really, really strong at the time. And like as the confetti is raining down from the flying pig with his head. Oh God, I think am I allowed to talk about this level of politics on your show? Because I'm not going to get opinionated about what mine are, but I would like to talk about the abstract.
Look, you totally can. Look, I don't really stop anybody from talking about what they want to talk about. I'm certainly not a political activist in any particular direction. I'm a bit more of a centrist type of person, libertarian type of person. Yeah. So I don't. This is one thing I talked about this actually with Taylor. Who's defiled entrails. We talked about that, of just sort of civil discourse, agreeing to disagree, being diplomatic with one another, being kind to one another, even if we completely disagree totally on politics.
Mhm.
So that's essentially my place. If you want to try to put me somewhere, I'm sure people will hate me for that on either spectrum or on any of the extreme
Yeah.
spectrums. But if you want
People
to, if it colors your experience, feel free. And I know, like, whatever your political things are, I love you anyway. You're a great person. I know that, and maybe we disagree on some things. It's totally okay. That's the way that I look at it. So if you want to talk about it, just like, it's totally fine. And if people don't like it, hey, try to be understanding. That's what I was saying. Walk a mile in somebody else's shoes, like you said at the beginning. I think that's what we need to try to do here. So this is your perspective, and that's fine. So please feel free.
Well, this is also like me being in the industry and me being respectful of other people's platforms. So I'm happy to talk about like where I was at the time and some of these things, but I'm also not going to like push what my own personal beliefs are. What
Fair.
I'm talking about is more about the abstract and where I was at the time and some of the emotions that I felt as a result of the place that I was in, which is different than my own core beliefs.
Awesome.
That's like
I like this distinction. Thanks for
like
explaining too.
and even if I am completely on board like with whatever, it's like these are two completely different things, and this is like how I want to treat it. So before anybody gets all uppity, yeah, I was at a Roger Waters concert and I was watching the Resist confetti fly down, and I was feeling the feels, and I was like, yeah,
That's a great scream.
And also, oh god, my favorite thing was like the graphic of Putin suckling Trump's teat, like baby Putin, and like the him holding a missile dick, like it was a dick that was shaped like a missile, like holding a very phallic missile, and like whoever did the Photoshop work for that show, like I hope they were paid wonderfully because they did a spectacular job.
It feels like Beeple Crap. I don't know if you know Beeple Crap. That he did a lot of digital art. Did really well with it. A lot of his stuff had political stuff like that, like whatever. And nobody was safe either. It was not like a particular spectrum. It's like if you're a politician of any type, oftentimes you'd be in there and there'd be like Trump with like cow milking machines on multiple teats, and there's always some phallic thing going on. And he did a something new every single day for multiple years. And I know during the NFT boom, he did pretty well making NFTs and having art galleries and stuff like that. So Beeple Crap is the what do you kind of say, the channel I know on Instagram anyway, like his ad. But anyway, I'm interrupting your story. You're saying you were
that's okay.
feeling the vibe, feeling strong, wanting to resist the powers that be. I understand.
But then there was a moment, and I feel like, okay, well, it's not like Roger Waters or any of his people are ever gonna like. I don't know if they're gonna ever listen to this. I doubt they will. But that was a moment when I really understood capitalism and how well it's marketed. Like, obviously you grow up really knowing about it, but then there was a moment where I just felt absurd amount of capitalism, because the same font that they used for the Resist confetti was the same font that they were using on the shirts that they were selling in the merch booth. And it was like, oh, I'm feeling the feels, but also I'm being heavily marketed to at the same time because I'm feeling the feels. And I just felt so gross afterwards. And like, there was a point, yes, I mean, people can look up on my Instagram and you can see like how involved in politics that I was at a certain point in time. And I'm not going to talk about that so much, but like, that's kind of why I shied away from, like, that's why I don't really like to get too heavily political, because I feel like to a lot of people it's something that they can exploit and market to you. Like, oh, you definitely feel this way, well, you need to buy this thing so that you can continue to feel this way as much as everybody else.
That's amazing. It's funny that this topic has come up a couple times when organically on this show, and I'm 100% with you, because I do feel like it kind of doesn't matter what your beliefs are or what your political leaning is or where you're going with things. It does seem like that stuff can get hijacked towards selling you something pretty
Mhm.
easily. And whether that's selling you like you should vote for this person or whether that's selling you a product, I do think
Mhm.
that happens all the time. Um, and so, and I don't know if it's necessarily 100% bad 100% of the time. I tend to shy away from stuff like, you selling me something? You trying to sell me something? But
Yeah.
someone has to sell me something in order for me to buy something sooner or later. But when it's hijacking those strong emotions based on your personal values, or even
Mhm.
sort of feeding you more of those personal values so that you are more susceptible to that marketing later on, I do struggle with that. I don't like it very much. I can understand where you're coming from there. And I don't know, I guess we get what's your thoughts on being aware about this kind of thing and maybe combating falling too much into a particular narrative that might just be something that's been set out for you to do in order to market you as a better, customer.
I think that this is really a job for Satan, and I say that like to try kind of loop things a little bit back around, but it's really hard to say no to some of these ideals and like something that you truly strongly believe in because you often get guilted into falling into doing something that you don't say or don't want to do. And I feel like a lot of people um feel like if you don't believe or do or act a certain way 100% of the time, then you're not a part of the group and it's not okay. And that goes for that doesn't matter where you fall. That doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter if I completely 100% agree with absolutely everything that you are talking about. I if I'm expected to do it, it makes me a little bit cautious. And I feel like I need to Satan up my spine a bit and be bold and just say no to some of these things, even if it makes me look like a terrible person. Because we may agree completely, and I have to just stand up and say, no, you know what? It's not okay that you're expecting me to do this, even if I do agree with you. Um, that's where I let Satan come in and just be bold and, stand up. And me being weak, I'm the kind of person before who would have been like, I do have to talk about this. I do have to do these certain things.
Really?
Uh,
Have you felt
yeah.
you felt that way where you feel pressure to do certain things even if you agree? I guess that makes sense. We all do get pressured, but have you felt that you want to please, people and not make them feel that you're a bad person or something like that in the past?
I I think that everybody kind of feels this way, especially on social media, because it doesn't matter what you're posting about. It doesn't matter what you're feeling. I've seen time and time again people spouting the rhetoric that if you don't repost this, you're a bad person.
That's crazy. That's crazy. That makes a lot of sense though, and I've seen that plenty of times too. Like, hey, this is what it is. This is important. We have to. And
Mhm.
I'm very wary about that kind of stuff, especially if something has become gets trendy or is just a trend in the last couple weeks or something. And we all got to get on this, everybody. We're in it
Mhm.
together. Except for if you don't, then you're out. You know. And
And I
I'm
think
a
that
little
that
bit
can,
nervous about that
that
stuff.
adds to the problem because while one group may be doing that about a very specific thing, that encourages another group to do that because they're like, "Hey, if we don't do this and we're not all on board, then they win."
It's a bit of a bullying tactic,
Mhm.
and in the end it almost hurts your cause. Even if your cause was just or did have good values to start, it can turn into a marketing campaign basically, and that is rough. I'm with you on that actually too. I've felt that way sometimes, and it
I will
does.
say though
Yeah,
I will
please.
say though, like, though I've talked about being in the music industry for 8 years, I'm a little bit more public about the fact that, like, I've left the music industry, like, just recently. I don't have any good stories that I can share about my new job, but I will say that I'm doing something for people now that is much more helpful and much more in line with my beliefs as a person, and does something for the thing that I want to change, and it feels good. And there are ways to be the person and change the world without having to post on on the internet.
That gives me, I think that's fantastic, and Happy to hear it. I'm happy that you found something. I know we don't have to talk about it because I don't think you want to talk about it, but I'm glad you're doing something new. And I'm glad that it's a secret. You know? No, we got to have secrets. Everybody's got to post everything all the time and tell everyone everything always. No,
Mhm.
secrets are great. Secrets are awesome. It's fun. I know we've demonized secrets, but sometimes they're necessary. So I'm glad that you're doing that. And that does swing me, it does swing me around to, because we talked a lot about this kind of stuff. I was thinking a lot about content versus consumption, or creation versus consumption. Like, are you really doing a creation, or are we making content for a somewhat addictive consumption, which I think this has
Mhm.
become? It's like, well, of course I'm going to be pulling out my phone and looking through all the stuff. And I'm like, well, it's not that it's bad, because obviously I like it. I've had fun on social media. I've had fun on Twitch. I've had fun on YouTube. I've had fun on Instagram. And there's TikTok now as well. I think it's fun, and I'm happy to see everyone creating. But is it creating, or is it feeding addiction? Is it feeding consumption? What's the difference between creating art and creating content, which I feel is a
Mhm.
little bit more hollow of a term for
Mhm.
art? And what's your thoughts on this? It's a vague question. I'm leaving it open to your
Yeah, that's
interpretation.
okay. Well, like before I post anything, and I mean, I think people kind of know this. Some people know this that like I have, multiple accounts. I don't post everything on one account, and good fucking luck if you find one of my accounts because they're private, and I will not accept your friend request. Um, but I'm I try and think about what I post before I post it. And sometimes if it's something private, like, oh, I just cooked a really, really, really good steak and I just want to tell the entire world about it. Yeah, we're gonna post that picture. Other times I'm posting like infographics about my new job. Other times I'm posting on my public account about like, hey, here's some stream stuff, here's some people, here's some art. Um, I still try and always be mindful about the things that I post. Everything has a purpose, and I still ask myself, even if it seems really small and asinine, is is this something that I should be telling the world? I come from the MySpace generation, where we were always doing status updates and wall posts, and like that was always very comfortable to me. And posting on the internet in Instagram daily stories, that is such a big stress relief for me. That's when you are really, really excited to talk about something and you just don't want to bother your friends, and it's fine. You could just like leave this out into the ether, and if people want to see it, then that's okay. I love doing shit like that. I see a lot of these trends, um, like where people will just take a photo of like their face with a certain filter, and it's like, well, that's fine, that's fine. And if that vibes with you, and if you enjoy doing that, and that makes you feel good, then that's cool. But also, like, does everything need to be content? Does it always need to be content? And I mean, the same thing could be said about if I'm posting steak pictures, but it makes me feel good to do. But you're right. Maybe I am just feeding an addiction. I'm not expecting anybody to ever look at my shit. I don't ever expect people to react or say anything. I do that for me. I don't know about everybody else, but maybe they are too. I don't know if other people are posting those selfie trends and they're expecting people to like and look and get 100 followers every single time they post a new picture. I don't know.
I could see
But I
that.
know that whenever I post stuff, it's for me.
That I think is a big distinction. I we're in alignment there too, actually, because I think the difference is probably intention. Are you conscious of doing this, or are you completely unconscious of doing this? Well, here's a new thing, I got to do that. Then maybe it's content. If it's like, this is the thing I actually want to do, and I never really heard of it that way before too, where for your stories you talked about how that's a way to get this out. Like, you have the need to get the stories out, get the stuff that you're telling. Oh, this is all the stuff that I did today, but I can't just call every friend and talk to them for 2 hours necessarily. So I'll put a bunch of stories up and say, here's the thing that I did today. Maybe they'll see it when they see it, and
Mhm.
it gets it off of your chest. That
Mm.
that sounds like a good reason to post.
Yeah. It helps me. It really helps me. I mean, so I'm a creature who likes to be alone a lot,
Oh, really?
and
Okay.
well, like I enjoy being around people. I love being around people, and like there are plenty of times where I've lived alone for a long time, and I love it. I love living by myself. Um, but that was one thing that I did to combat the itchy, lonely feelings. Just like a quick post, and then it's gone for the day, and I'm fine. That's all. Doesn't matter who's looking. It doesn't matter if anybody cares. I just needed to shout into the void.
Okay. Okay. Well, this is really cool. This is really cool. Speaking of stories, this is a huge left turn, but I now it's in my mind. It's a thing I wanted to talk to you about. Totally different topic, but I mean, I think we covered this. I think we covered this. I think we get your opinion, and that's what I wanted, and I like it. I'm gonna think about it for a little while. I don't think I have a lot of things to say about it right this second. So
That's okay.
I'm gonna think about it and see like how am I approach because I'm trying to put this together for myself all the time as well, right? I do a lot of things that have to do with social media, so I want to tread carefully. I know because I grew up in the same generation as you, and I'm not careful. I wasn't as careful maybe in the past. I've always been paranoid, so I've always liked pseudonyms and nicknames and all this
Mhm.
kind of stuff. But I think it was the Wild West at one point with the internet.
Oh yeah.
And you would just go on something, have chats with people. Maybe you were sexting them. It wasn't even called that. It was called cybering at the time.
Yeah.
You
Oh
know,
my God. Memory unlocked.
so it wasn't really careful though. So
No.
these days it's kind of becoming more clear that being more careful is important. So yeah, I think I'm gonna think about how to tread carefully. But I will take a huge left turn and say I was watching one of your stories just the other day where you went to the high desert
Hmm.
for rock hunting,
Hmm.
right? So are you interested in geology? Like how do rocks come into this game?
Well, okay, so there are a few reasons that I really, really like hunting rocks. I love to post about it because it's my meditation time. That's when I actually do like put my phone away for the day and I go and I refocus myself, but I'll still be taking pictures, and when I'm done, I like to like post about the things that I learned and the things that I meditated about, but I'm not doing it while I'm actually out there. Um, because it just kind of helps to again get it off my chest and like get my thoughts out. Um, and I don't care like I posted like 20 fucking things that day. I like for all of the people who actually made it through to the end of that insanity, I commend you. I commend you. Um, but I love rocks. My mom, she was a rock nerd. Not she wasn't a geologist, but she did love um, she like I have memories when I was a little kid of going out to the mountains, and she'd be really, really stoked to find this big ass piece of obsidian, and she'd be like, "Look at this big piece of obsidian! You never see it this big. Look at how the geology formed." And like we were we'd go along the edges to like look for little rocks and stuff. And I when I was a kid, it wasn't a big deal, but as I got older and I started playing Animal Crossing during the pandemic, and I was digging up fossils, and I was like, I just want to go rock hunting. I just really, really want to go rock hunting. So, I was feeling really low, and I was talking to my boss. This is my second guitar pedal gig, my second guitar pedal job. I was talking to my boss, and I was like, "Yeah, I just don't know. I feel like I need a break from everything. I need to like refocus my brain." And he's like, "You really do need to take a break. So what I want you to do is I want you to take a day off of work. No, I don't mean like go take a day off of work and go sleep and go do chores and whatever and and catch up on stuff. I want you to go and go do something fun." And go like actually take a break, leave all of your chores behind, like leave all of your work behind, and just ditch for a day. That's what I want you to do. And he did. Like that's what I did. He actually bought me some rock picks when I told him what I wanted to go do.
Oh, that's so
And
wicked.
like I encourage everybody. If your boss is shitty, there is a boss out there. I can guarantee you that not every boss is shitty. I had the best goddamn boss ever. People in the music industry have been wonderful, and not everybody can get a job like that. I understand, but there is hope out there. I promise. because I was there and my boss was stellar and I have nothing bad to say about him ever. And I hope that he gets to hear this because I really do miss working for him. So,
Oh, that's
anyway,
so cool.
so he got me these rock picks and it was the best damn thing. And even if I don't use them on every trip, but I do bring my rock picks every single time I go. And I've been out hunting fossils and it just makes me feel so close to everything. It makes me feel close to nature. It makes me feel close to like my family. It makes me feel close to my friend. It makes me feel so close when I'm out alone by myself.
Wow. Oh, that sounds just beautiful. That sounds just beautiful. I think we all have something like that. I'm happy that you find a way to bring it into your life, though. Because I think a lot of us don't. I think we go, oh, there's this thing that I liked or whatever, and I forgot about it for a while, but you got to bring that in, bring it in somewhere. You can't only be doing things that are even you liked working where you worked. You know, it sounded like it was a fantastic time, but sometimes a change is necessary, at least for a short term, just to
It
recombine the
really is.
brain. You're like, okay, we did the same thing 8 million times. Human beings
Hmm.
sometimes need a shift, and we need that new change of scenery. Then bringing it back, you've got so many memories and the childhood connection to it. I mean, this is cool. This is cool. I'm not saying any. I'm not asking you anything. I'm just like mulling it over in
No,
my mind. It's
no.
kind of how it works for me. But oh wow, okay. So I'm going to ask you another question that comes out of left field, but not really. Your signature look is the lab coat. I noticed you have a fork on the lab coat as well. So maybe
Yeah.
there's a couple of. Is there a story there? Is there something you could share as to how that came about?
Well,
And then
there's more
also,
than
why is
just
there a
that.
fork?
There's also a patch here that I got from Seabad. There's also like some buttons. Oh god, my button from Airy Poo came off. This is from our first
Oh,
fork meetup. All everything that I put in my coat is from Twitch.
oh,
Um,
awesome.
so I originally got this lab coat when I was working at this little place called Schmidt Industries, and it was a very, 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 very weird place to work. I was soldering. This was between when I worked at Cattle and Bread and my last guitar pedal job. And no, I'm not gonna reveal that place, but like
Don't worry about
I
it. You
can
have to
reveal
say
Cattle and
details.
Bread because that's like several jobs ago. But I was working at
we
Schmidt
can we can
in between
be
these.
we can be ethereal images on the internet. It's fine. You don't have to give major
r-
details. We're phantoms. We're content for your consumption. don't
uh,
don't worry about it. Just go to
I
the
must
next thing.
consume.
Consume and swipe and don't think about us anymore. That's
Yeah,
fine.
exactly. 20 story updates? No, just get rid of it. Just move on. Do something better. Go hunt rocks.
It's so
So
funny. So
this
when
lab
someone tells
coat,
you kick rocks, it's kind of like a nice thing for you.
yeah, go kick rocks. Hell yeah, let's go do that. I was working at Schmidt. It was just a very, very weird place to work. I was doing soldering there. I was doing assembly work, and I did not fit in. That was so fucking corporate, and they were fine with my hair being blue, and that was cool, but I didn't jive with their work culture. They had motivational posters on the wall unironically.
Oh,
It was that kind of place. So another weird thing about that place is that the owners of the company often stored their antiques in a warehouse in the back, right? Also, people who worked there would sometimes just leave random shit from their travels across the world. So, one of the things that I ended up getting was this lab coat from that job, and I ended up with a second lab coat. But this is my punk lab coat because I wore it to work every day after I found it. They're like, "Yeah, you could just take that. Nobody ever wears lab coats anymore. You can just have that." Um, well, one day I forgot that I left a pen I forgot that I left a pen in it, and I had the pen splattered all over it when I put it in the dryer. So I never wore that at work again. I wore the other one. But when I started streaming, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna bring the lab coat back. I love the lab coat. I never get to wear it anymore. It's gonna be my stream coat, and I'm gonna wear the fucked up punk one, and I'm gonna just like sew memorabilia and patches that people give me and put buttons all over it and just like wear things that people give me from Twitch. This fork in the pocket, I keep forgetting how visible it is. This was from one of our first community meetups for another community, and Like I wear it all the time on my stream because I was like, well, I ended up making like 20 of these things and 10 of you showed up, so there's like 10 more in my in my craft drawer.
Wait,
So
Fork has got to be Windbag then. It's got to have
yeah.
something to do with Windbag.
Yes.
It's got to be. He's so
Yeah.
amazing.
Yes, yes. Yes, he is.
Forking on a
Uh,
Friday. That's the deal.
yeah.
I'm with it. I'm
Oh, it
with
is
it.
Friday. Now that you mention it.
That's it. We're
Today is.
sort of
Today is
forking on a
actual.
Friday. So you're welcome.
God.
Fantastic. It's actually
Yeah.
Friday, but every Windbag stream is Friday, basically.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Oh, awesome. That's totally awesome. And so this, yeah, I have something like that too. Like I do keep a lot of the things, and they tend to be around if it's from Twitch or if it's from the podcast or something like that. Like I have a mask from the first person who was ever on this podcast. It's Vicky Clarici. They do horror movie masks, but like professional style, and so I have one of her masks and that kind of stuff. So like yeah, and
Yes.
t-shirts. There's a t-shirt, the luthier, who's a guitar player, maker of guitars, I should say. He had a t-shirt that he put out, so I have that, and yeah, all that kind of stuff. Like, so I know exactly where you're coming from. And Mar Pizza's stickers, I have that, so yeah, no, there's people. I'm with you. It just sort of keeps it. I like the ink though. The fact that
Thank
it's
you.
spilled on it, gives it character.
Yeah, I'm definitely going for the mad scientist punk thing because I had to be a little bit cleaner when I worked at Schmidt, and it's a little weird to wear a lab coat at any other place. Like it made sense there because that's where I got the lab coat from, but I couldn't do it anywhere else. So I kind of like being like the messy punk mad scientist person. And that's always just been my persona. That's how I've always felt.
Okay, I'm with you. I mean, I can understand it. I mean, I have the punk thing is a thing. I mean, the
Mhm.
punk thing is definitely a thing for me because, well, I mean, I'm doing
Yes.
all of this, and it's not just for the fun of it. Like and it's to some degree for the fun, but it's a vibe. It's a vibe. And okay, speaking of things that you're into, I have a couple of things. Like one, I want to talk about your show again. I want to circle back to that. But before I do that, I'm seeing right over your shoulder all of the technology that you've got going.
Yes.
Classic old school technology. I was
Oh
down in the
yeah.
basement the other day and I found two Walkmans. I found a tube TV that was a TV VHS combination and
Nice.
a CD player. I'm not sure if it was the CD and cassette combo, but like a bunch of old stuff was down there. How did you get into technology, I guess, to begin with, but why is it this vintage tech? What's enamoring you so much with it? And yeah, what's your game there?
Well, one of my earliest memories, I was about, I don't know, 7 or 8 years old. My family, we used to camp out at the Salton Sea in California, this big ass desert, and it's the most beautiful cesspool I've ever seen. Um, I know it's a hell of a description, but if you know anything about the Salton Sea, you know it's a beautiful cesspool. But people would often dump things like old cars and technology or whatever. Like there was this rubbish pile that just spawned out of nowhere. And I remember there was a completely broken apart VCR, right? And I'm a little kid, and I thought it was the coolest thing because I'd never seen the inside of a electronics before. And there were these huge capacitors and these little resistors, and I looked at it, I was like, oh, it's like a tiny city. My little 7-year-old brain, and I'm like, dollhouse, dollhouse, dollhouse. This is a little city. This is like for playing pretend. And my mom was like, no, you put that down now. You don't know if you're gonna get shocked. You don't know what's gonna happen. You put that down now. And I was like really, really disappointed. But I fell in love with the aesthetics of circuits at that point. I just thought they were the prettiest things and just so wonderful. But as I got older, I really wanted to get into learning how to do robotics, right? I did take some college courses in robotics. I did take some engineering courses. I am not made for school. I cannot do classes. I don't have the attention span for it. They wanted us to do 18 units in a semester to start, and that was like that was like 60 hours of school per week, and my brain can't handle 10. And they had no other option. And I did not make it past the first semester. But And
That's
that's okay. I
understandable
did
though.
learn some
I'm
things.
with you. I'm
I
like that. I'm
So
like
like
that.
I learned some things. That's when I got to working at Cattle and Bread. And I ended up like dropping out of school to pursue an actual job doing work with electronics and circuitry. Um, for tube electronics for cathode ray tubes, I've always they've always been like a warm, comforting place for me. I remember being a little kid in the computer labs with those giant ass iMacs, and when you turn them on, there's a warm hum and the smell of cookies in the air because like leaded solder smells like cookies sometimes. Um, but I remember these warm smells and the vibrations in the air from the CRTs. And when I was really really little, mind you, I was like 3 or 4. I remember like we had an old what was it? I think it was a Magnavox, a big ass Magnavox, bigger than this thing, like bigger, wider. Um and like I would like rub my face against it to like feel the static. And my mom was like, "No, don't do that.
Stop.
Do not do that." But like these just they provide me a sense of nostalgia that I don't really get with like the typical nostalgia aesthetics that people typically have. Like to me, this reminds me of like rubbing my face against a CRT to feel the static. But I also love oscilloscopes. Oscilloscopes are beautiful. This one right here in the middle, the cathode ray tube, just it died on my last move,
Oh.
which makes me really sad. But this one was given to me by my long-term partner, and it was very special to him. And I love this thing. I was also given this one over here, and one down here from some friends. Um, Cathode ray is it's just a very warm, fuzzy vibe. And every time I turn it on and I feel the static in the air and I can hear the slight hum, I'm like, oh, something really exciting is about to happen. When I've used the digital oscilloscopes at work, I'm like, all right, this is cool. I attach the probes to these 2 points and I measure the voltage, and then I can see the little wavy thing. It doesn't give me the same jolt of excitement that these ones do.
That makes a lot of sense too. It's true. If you turn on an old school tube style television, it goes like, and yeah, if you turn it off, there's static all over that screen. This is
Mhm.
just like there's something happening. This is like you just turned on a nuclear reactor almost. and
These
it's
things are
warm.
actually radioactive, by the way.
There you go. Yeah. It feels that way. It feels
No,
that
no,
way,
I
but it
mean
was more
like
fun.
I actually looked this up recently because I was on a Rusty Panda show and we were talking about cathode ray displays. So like I pulled up the Wikipedia article for like CRTs before going on the show, and I was like, "Oh, these are radioactive. I really shouldn't have been rubbing my face against these when I was a kid."
No, no,
um,
you shouldn't
no.
have. But you did, and we love you. So it's it's okay. And also shout out to Rusty, by the way,
Shout
because
out to Rusty.
I've been on Wiki Wednesdays on Twitch, the Rusty Panda with 2 A's. She's amazing. Met her at TwitchCon as well when I went there in Vegas the year before. So she's amazing. Her show is fantastic. If ever you can catch it on Wednesday nights, do so because it's great. But I'm glad you're on it. I miss everything from everybody all the time. So that's just the way it is. I try to recover from it by shouting people out later. That's kind of the game plan that I have. Now I can understand that too. Something about the technology specifically. When I see like the Walkman or something and I turn it on and watch the little things start to go. I don't think they're working anymore. I tried putting some tapes in. I found like some old tapes, dug them up, stuck it in there, Funk Master Flex Volume 2. And no luck. They're not playing, but they do still turn. They do still turn. So it's kind of cool. But it is anything. I wonder what's going to be the nostalgia for the following generation too. Like what things, like what tech, excuse me, what differences there will be. It's hard to say.
Yeah, that's a really good point because I in reviewing your segment on my show, because I had to watch it over and over and over again, something occurred to me that I want to touch on.
Let's
When
go.
we were talking about how modern nostalgia is a callback to a previous generation, right?
Yeah.
So I realized something. It tends to get more homogenized the more that it gets regurgitated. And that might be why certain aesthetics are condensed down to a specific thing. So I bet synthwave is going to come back in like 20 years and it's going to be just like a very, very condensed version of synthwave. I can't even imagine what that's going to be, but I bet it's going to happen.
It could be. You know, I talked to a dude on Twitch named Chromapunk, who's a synthwave DJ, right? And
Oh, yeah.
he's
I
dope.
remember you talk. Yeah, I remember that one.
And I thought he had a good description of what synthwave is, because he's like, synthwave is essentially what our idea of this 80s kind of music and aesthetic and vibe was, but it
Mhm.
actually isn't that. It's not like
Mhm.
I'm taking old synth music and playing it. I'm playing a version that is my heightened imagination of how I imagined this music was. Almost like, in a way, the way that I think about it is maybe almost like the way you still think the graphics for like a Nintendo 64 game are the same as the newest, PC game that you're playing. You're like, oh, it was the same, right? Then you go back and go, oh no, it wasn't. Like, they were really old and whatever. So I think it's like this kind of cleaned up version of it. So maybe I wonder what that version would be in the future, where you've already taken a image of an image and now it's another copy of that image, or an iteration of that image. I don't know. It's something it's hard to predict, obviously. Okay, so you know what? Speaking of your show, I know we're close to the end at this point, so I want to get back to the show real quick before we shut everything down, before we shut this crazy train down.
Shut her down.
You have a great yell too. So yeah, your show is Artist Peaked.
Mhm.
And you just mentioned it. You record us, take a bunch of clips, a bunch of different angles, add effects, edit this thing together in a particular way and put it out on Twitch. So my question is, why for all of that? Like, what's the story? What are you doing with this thing? Like, what is Artist Peaked?
Okay, so this is gonna sound really shitty, and I might sound like I'm dunking on some people, and I don't mean to. This is just some things that everybody does their shows a little differently, right? Neon Ballroom is about dancing the dance and exchanging like other questions with other people and leaving things open to a more wide audience. Like, am I right about that? Did I get that right?
I apologize.
Like,
I was choking to death, but
don't die, please don't die.
I
Dying
drank
is
water
bad.
and then I breathed it. But
That is how that's Ragged's death on the air.
yeah, we died. It's okay. We're ghosts. Go to the next thing. Consume the next content.
Tree falls on the computer and
A tree fell. It died instantly.
if a tree falls on Ragged's stream and he didn't send out the clip, did it make a sound?
Did it make a sound? It was silent. Okay, you're asking me, and Neon Ballroom is about dancing the dance and just having these conversations. I would say that's the case. That's what Neon Ballroom is about. Just dancing the dance, being live, having the dance between the audience, the chat, the fact that we don't know each other most of the time. I've never even talked to this person. Maybe I've been in their chat before or something, and it's like, hey, we're here, and here we are, and it always seems to kind of work anyway. That, I guess that's true. So yes, it is.
Always.
The short
Okay, so
answer, yes.
And your style of interviewing people is very different. It's a bit more chaotic, more conversational. But when I was on, say, Abers' stream, Abersm too. I don't know if you know Abers, but
I don't know them.
Okay, so Abers does an interview show, and Abers is also a World of Warcraft streamer. Abers is wonderful. I was on their show, and it was more structured. There were some very pointed questions, and it was about a very specific topic about why we go live. And
why we go live? Is her show Why We Go Live?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I do know.
Yeah.
We've actually chatted, but I haven't seen the stream. So
it was good. I was on it.
Of course you were.
it was on, yeah, the thing's up on YouTube. But anyway, then I'm on Wiki Wednesday, and Panda Style is very, very different, and it has a very different structure. And there's one thing that always got to me. whenever somebody tries to raid in, it derails the entire conversation. We have to stop what we're talking about. We have to stop what we're doing because somebody donated a shit ton of bits. We have to stop what we're doing because now they're dropping subs. And oh, where did this hype train come from? Why is there a hype train in the middle of the interview? And like the entire thing gets derailed. And I hate that because like now the show is no longer an interview show. It's something else entirely. And I get it. That's what Twitch is. Twitch is about, doing the live thing. But I thought it would be more I wanted to do something different where we're talking and the point is always coming across and I'm in chat fielding questions and we're all watching this live and we're being a little bit more interactive in the audience. And if a hype train starts, okay, sure, whatever. And we can handle it as we do. Um, but it's different and we don't get derailed. And of course we get derailed in conversation sometimes when we get, when we go on tangents and whatever, but it's not derailment on top of derailment on top of derailment. And I kind of wanted to bring that to Twitch because maybe we don't need to just be live all the time. Maybe we can also just hang out in the chat and field questions to each other. And it sometimes feels a little bit more personal because I'm able to talk to people in the chat. You should watch your own segment and see what was happening in the chat last night
Oh.
because there was some wild stuff. Alchemmutation showed up.
Oh, really?
Um,
Wow.
yeah,
Man,
Alki hasn't been on Twitch in a while.
It was
Like he's
1
had
in the
some stuff.
morning, dude. I was asleep.
I know you were
I'm
asleep,
a
and that's what I
grandma with
kept
that.
telling people. Like Defiled showed up, and I was like, "Yeah, no, this is not live. Rick is asleep," and he's like, "Ah, I've been lied to, but I'm still gonna be here for Rick." So,
No, well,
but
he's awesome. I call him Defiled because he was defiled on there, but it's Taylor Perez. But yeah,
it's Taylor. Yes,
yeah,
it's Taylor now. Yeah,
it's Taylor.
it is
It's
Taylor.
hard, isn't it? Hard to shift. Anyway,
It is.
I
It is, and I feel so bad about that. But yeah, so Taylor was there last night, and Taylor was like, "Yeah, no, Rick's here." Yeah, I'm like, "No, he's not live. He's asleep.
he's
He's asleep."
asleep. I wanted to. I really did. I was like, I want to do this, but it's the middle of. I've been
Well,
trying to go to bed earlier and earlier because I'm the worst for staying up all night. That's the thing. It's what I mean. I'll get up at noon or something and stay up all night long so easily. But the going to bed on time and waking up on time thing not been my favorite thing. So I've been working towards it.
I do it too. Well, that's another point about the show
Yeah.
about doing this. My original goal was to air all of the interviews as late as possible to make it as inconvenient for everyone as I possibly can.
Yeah, you
And
mentioned
there's a
that.
reason for that. Well,
Tell me
there's
the
a reason
reason.
for that. Like, okay, so I
I
think a lot of
demand
people
an explanation.
I demand explanations. So I notice a lot of streamers will do things like, oh, I want to get that lunch crowd. Oh, I want to get that after work crowd. Oh, I want to get that morning commute crowd. That's when my stream is going to be airing, and that's when I want to get the views. And sometimes people are like, this is literally the only time I can do it. This is my work hour. This is what I have. And I think people focus too heavily on the view count and the market that they pitch to. And I wanted to say, fuck that. I don't care if anybody's going to watch this. This is what a VOD is for. This is what clips are for. This is what advertising on my own damn Instagram is for after I've aired this thing. If people can show up if they want to. That's fine. This is not about the views. This is about the conversation. And that is the whole damn point. And I was surprised to see as many people show up as they did last night because I didn't think anybody was going to show up because it was it was like 10 o'clock my time. I aimed to have the whole thing end at midnight my time, which is 3 a.m. for you, I think.
Yeah, 3 a.m. It's 3 a.m.
So, like that, no one's gonna be awake at that hour. That's fine. People in Ireland are gonna be awake at that hour, but that's it. That's it. If they
we
feel
have
like
some friends in
showing up,
Ireland.
I mean, yes, that's true. We do know a lot of Irish streamers.
Shout
Shout
out
out to
Uracket.
Uracket especially.
There
Yeah.
it is. Jinx.
Um. Yes, especially Uracket, who I'm gonna be meeting in March. Oh my God, I'm
Oh,
so
wow.
excited.
Excited.
Oh, you didn't know? I'm going to Boston in March.
Oh, that's right. You guys have been talking about this for a while, though. So I think I do know a little bit about it. I didn't know if you were going to go, but a lot of people
Oh yeah.
that we know are going to be in that vibe.
If Racket's going to be in America, I am going to be there. I need to meet my best bud. I need to meet my best bud.
That sounds like a plan. Hell yeah.
So anyway, I was talking about something,
Yeah,
streamers. Oh yeah, no, I just didn't want to market to people. I wanted it to be the most inconvenient possible time. And I found out that there is something really nice about that. Like most people are not streaming during that hour, so I don't feel like I have to like overlap with anybody.
yeah, that's rough too sometimes. Yeah, when you feel like you're streaming at the same time as your friends and stuff, it's tough.
Mhm.
Okay.
Originally I chose Tuesday nights because I wanted to catch Seabad's streams. I if you Seabad hasn't streamed in a while, but Seabad used to do Wednesdays. I'm like, well, I can't do Wednesdays because I want to be there for Seabad streams.
Yeah, no, it's hard. It's
Mhm.
hard. Yeah, and the streaming schedule is a whole other thing. So that's pretty cool. It was sort of scheduling, but also trying to not be directly marketing a particular thing, and also aiming to be able to actually be there for the chat
Mhm.
while saying, "Here's a conversation we had," between the two of us, and then we'll go there. I consider having a stream where we like go on Twitch and talk about, like, we watch this and we do like a watch party together and stuff like that. I don't know if I'll do it or not. I do consider it though. But I did want to get back. I understand where you're coming from too with just having the conversation and having it not go completely haywire because a bunch of crazy Twitch based things have happened.
Mhm.
That's definitely a big deal. It's part of the reason why I initially made a podcast like this in the first place. Was just that I want to have a more, if you want to call it, intimate conversation with somebody. Like, I actually could get to know you, and we're not worried that the chat, we've ignored the chat for 2 hours now. It's hard. I also don't have to be doing this while I'm talking to you,
Mhm.
is a thing, because this is kind of this eye movement thing. It's
Uh-huh.
absolutely necessary. Now, from time to time, I'm hitting the buttons and stuff to switch views and all that, but otherwise, I can look pretty much straight at you and be like, okay, I can hear what you're saying. You're telling me that your friend and your boss and this important person got hit by a tree, and
Mhm.
I'm not going like, yeah, oh, and Mr. Funklenuts in the chats just cheered a few bits, like, it is important that we can get that kind of story out, I think. So
Mhm.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I like it. Well, look, I don't want to keep you forever either. I'm sure it's been an interesting situation. So I will ask this.
Mhm.
This is just an ending question. It's like, I want everyone who can to check out whatever you do,
Mhm.
because I think you're a very interesting and unique person. I like your perspective on a lot of things. I like how you approach art and science and technology and just your life in general. It seems like you've got you've got your own thing happening, which is exactly what the ragged world is. It's what I call people ragged ones when they're of this ilk, I guess. I don't know, it's a way to put it. So yeah, I think you're one of them for sure. And I'll ask you this: is there a scientific? I have one that I thought of, and I didn't tell you this in advance because I seem to never tell people things in advance. But is there a scientific or philosophical law that strikes you particularly well? Something that you've remembered? Like, I could give you examples. Maybe the 80-20 Pareto principle or something like that is a possible thing. Is there something that you've carried around and go, there's an interesting phenomenon that happens in this realm?
Energy is not created nor destroyed, it merely changes form.
And why does that one get you?
It always stuck with me when I was a kid. And for that reason, I believe in at least some form of reincarnation, whether it be your ashes have now fed the trees whether your ashes fertilize the tree that grows the fruit that produces more life for the world. Like that is a form of reincarnation, even if your soul's not present. The energy that you put out into the world, your vibes, your feelings, your emotions, the way that you influence people, that is a form of reincarnation too. The things that you do matter. It all matters so much. And this is also partially why I'm not afraid of whenever it is that my time is. Whenever a tree falls on my head and kills me, I've already put energy out there. I'm and like whatever I am my body, whatever that is, it's going to continue to do things after I'm dead. Just like grind up my ashes, let me fertilize a tree, and then the tree is going to grow some fruits, and then I will be the fruits, and then life will continue on. And I'll feed the birds, and life will just go on.
That's very that's very true. That's very true. I'm with you. Okay, you know what? Is that a good place to call it a day?
Works for me.
It works for me. No, but I want to thank you again for being here, and just chatting with me.